Welcome to the fight of your life. Are you willing to die to shine? Nobody is taking us down. We are here for the crown of sound.
We have the legendary Alice Cooper here on the Power. Alice, so good to see you. Welcome back. How you been, sir?
Thank you, thank you. So like the calm before the storm right now. You know, it's there's so much going on. Recording is I've just finished 2 albums, and you know the tour. It's a brand new show, so it's all new staging. It's all new everything. You know, so we're going into Nashville for about 2 weeks to stage this thing, and then we're gone. We're out till November.
That's incredible. I saw you just welcome back the lovely Nita Strauss back to the band. What's that like having Nita back in the fold?
You know, Nita, I always have a revolving door kind of thing in my band. Ryan, Roxy's always there. Tommy's there. You know, Glenn Sobel, Chuck Garrick, and when it comes to that position, you know, I kind of like if she wanted to go do that. You know, I said fine. You know, that's the door's always open, and my show is kind of like that. And Kane Roberts was, you know, available, who was certainly was my first pick, and he came back, and that was really fun having Kane in. And then Nita, I said, Nita, come on back. You know, it'd be great.
I have to say, after all of us were able to see you on Louder Than Life last year, I have never seen so many people behind the scenes who were ready to rock out to Alice Cooper. Everyone was so excited and having an absolute blast. So I'm really looking forward to the Freaks on Parade tour this summer with Rob Zombie, of course. And you were just telling us how it's going to be a totally different setup. Can you give us any hints?
Rob's like my little brother, you know. I think we get along so well because we both see horror as comedy, you know. It's very hard to go to a horror movie with Rob because we're laughing all the way through it. And the more absurd it is, the better, you know, and certainly we have the same dark sense of humor. But I think, you know, you add comedy, horror, and rock and roll together, and it's a really good combination. I've been doing that for my entire career.
You know, it's amazing to me, Alice. I was just thinking about, Katie mentioned Louder Than Life last year. And you were incredible. Your voice. Everybody was talking about like how you can still sing as great as ever. You can get up there and perform. I mean, it blows me away. And you know, just recently, 2 of your classic albums celebrated anniversaries. 1971's Love It to Death with your first big hit, I'm 18, and Welcome to My Nightmare, right around the same time. Yeah. And I have to ask you, can you go back in time and talk to me about when you finally had that record that broke through, I'm 18. Is it true that you guys literally were calling radio stations yourselves, requesting your own record to get people to play it?
Absolutely. Yeah, you'd be crazy not to do that. You know, I mean, it was back in the days when you needed airplay. And we were not used to we were used to being very notorious. That was our sort of our position in rock. We didn't know if we would ever have a hit record. But when we got Bob Ezrin, all of a sudden we had our George Martin. You know, what George Martin did with the Beatles is what Bob Ezrin did with us. We wrote really good, quirky things, but he took the really good parts, put them together, and said, okay, now this song 18 that was this long is this long, and it's powerful, because we kept making it simpler and simpler till it was just in your face. You know, it might have been one of the very first really kind of punk hits. I mean, you know, we were very surprised 18 was a hit. School's Out was designed for the radio. I mean, that song was, who's going to disagree with School's Out?
Alice, speaking of I'm 18 being a punk song, that is the song that Johnny Rotten of the Sex Pistols used to audition for the band when he went to sing in front of them. It was on a jukebox. He loved you, grew up loving you, sang that song and got the gig, and that of course changed the history of punk rock. Talk to me about what it feels like to know you've influenced so many generations of great artists and people still influencing so many.
Well, you know, there was a time when there was no theater really in rock and roll at all. Frank Zappa, you know, did sort of a guerrilla sort of theater up there. but most of it was about how great his guitar playing was and how great the band was, the Mothers. But with that song, you know, there were, and I said this a lot of times, but it's such a great kind of picture for it. There were tons of Peter Pans and no Captain Hook. And I said, I will gladly be Captain Hook, you know, because I was built to be the villain anyways. And that song was very subversive. You know, 18 was very subversive. It was during the Vietnam War, and it was going, I'm a boy, I'm a man, you know, I'm confused, I'm chaotic. And the hook was, and I like it. I'm 18 and I like it. And everybody went, yeah, you know. To this day, they turn 18, they go, yeah, I believe that's me in that song. But they do the same thing with My Generation. They hear My Generation, they go, yeah, that song's even older than 18. You know, it's when you write an anthem when everybody can agree with it.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes an anthem, you know. Generations, 100 years from now, 18-year-olds will go, yeah, that's me.
That's great. Yeah.
I love it. And steering away from music just a tad, I like a good love story, and I absolutely adore your wife, Cheryl. We got to spend a lot of time together on No Cover, and I know that you met, I believe she was 18 years old, right?
Yes.
Okay, so 18 years old, she was one of your dancers. You guys have been together ever since, but I want to know what you and Cheryl do on a night off in Phoenix, at home, or on a date night.
We have, and we do a date night. You know, at 47 years, we've been together, and I still treat her like my girlfriend. Every once in a while, every Tuesday night, I whisk her away to a cheap motel.
That's great. I love that.
That's the most romantic thing you can
Oh
do.
my God, I love it.
That is so rock
mean,
and roll, too.
and
That is so rock and
And
roll.
the worst hotel, the better. You know, it's got to be really one that she goes, really? And I go,
A
yeah.
Motel 6 that smells like cat pee.
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden that becomes very, wow, But I mean, you in our situation, I think we still pursue each other. I don't take her for granted at all. And she is such an intricate part of the show. Cheryl in this next show plays a character. She was Mademoiselle Guillotine in the last show. Very elegant, sort of one patch over the eye. And she really looked great. This one, she's Marie Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette is the greatest
I
name
love it.
ever.
You heard it here first on AXS TV on the Power Hour. That is
And
badass.
she is just devastated. I mean, this Marie Antoinette is all the whole French look. But I mean, there's a gigantic slash in her throat, and and of course she's going to cut my head off because that's what they did to her.
That's
But I mean, it's also the fact that she does all of the high vocals, not just in my band, but in the Vampires, in the Hollywood
So
Vampires.
cool.
She's the only female vampire.
And you know what? Let's talk about the vampires for a sec, because I've never been able to see the vampires. It's like a dream of mine to be able to see you guys. And Johnny Depp, of course, huge fan. You guys got to play a couple shows once he was out of the courtrooms for that Amber Heard shit that was going on.
Yeah.
But what was it like to finally have him back and be doing something that you guys hadn't done for a couple of years?
Well, we hadn't seen each other in 3.5 years, because I mean, when COVID hit, everything was shut down, and we were kind of like all locked into where he went to his island somewhere, and then all this whole thing blew up with Amber, and so I saw him when he was playing with Jeff Beck. Mm-hmm. I hadn't seen him in 3.5 years, and so I went backstage, and I opened the door in his dressing room, and I went, "So what's new?"
Hey, Alice, I got to tell you, Katie just had her birthday party upstairs at the Rainbow, near the lair where the Hollywood Vampires used to hang out with Keith Moon and Mickey Dolenz and all the guys used to run with Harry Nilsson. She had her party up there just a couple weeks ago.
Wow, there was some really, that was so much fun back then. And the funny thing about that was, it was sort of like a place where you'd be sitting there, John Lennon and Harry Nilsson, and nobody ever talked about music. This was the place where we could go and not be talking about music. You know, we talked about everything but music. You know, and it was always the last man standing. You know, it was sort of like if you couldn't, the last guy standing had to buy all the drinks. So it was
like that at my birthday party too. Last man standing because I was done by the end.
I was the only one that could sign my name at the end, you know.
Yeah.
But
he's like, I guess I got the bill. I got
I guess
it.
that's
getting
me,
back
right?
to getting back to Johnny though. I mean, the Hollywood Vampires. It started out as when I was doing Dark Shadows with him, the movie. I'd never met Johnny, but I knew he was a guitar player. Mm-hmm. And we went to do the 100 Club in London that night. The band was going to jam there. And I told Johnny, I said, Johnny, why don't you come over and play? And he shows up and nailed it. Just nailed every song. I know, Brown Sugar. Okay, great. Boom. You know, every single song we did, he nailed it. And we were talking about the Vampires, and I said, it'd be great to do a little bar band, you know, and just do songs for our dead drunk friends. You know, and so Joe Perry goes, I'm in. And Duff McKagan goes, I'm in. And next thing you know, here's this band. The next thing, we played a hunt for 100 people one night, and then the next show was 250,000 people at Rock in Rio.
Oh my God.
That's incredible.
You guys, if you ever get a chance to watch that footage, Alice brings out Lizzie, our friend Lizzie Hale, and you guys do an incredible version of "Whole Lotta Love" by Led Zeppelin.
Absolutely.
There's a look on your face when she starts singing of like, "Oh, excuse me."
Yeah, no, I knew that she could hit the notes, and I was going to play harp on it. So I play on the record. I play harmonica on it, and in that band, the great thing for me in that band is I'm not Alice Cooper in that band. I'm the lead singer. You know, I mean, I don't have to be the Alice character. In the Alice Cooper show, Alice never talks to the audience because that makes him human. He wouldn't want to be human. And in this band, I talk to the audience all night. I tell them Jim Morrison stories and Keith Moon stories and all that. And we literally do songs for our dead drunk friends.
Is there going to be a Los Angeles show anytime soon?
This next tour is 2 months in Europe. And I don't know what happens after that, but I'm positive we go to the United States after that.
We can't wait to
I'll
see
be
that.
there front row on the barricade.
It's a tight band. And you know, the most amazing thing about my band and that band is that everybody's best friends. The Vampires have been together 7 years. There's never been one argument in that band.
That's
and
incredible.
I heard these stories about you, Alice, that like at the end of a tour, you take everybody out to dinner and hang with everybody, and it's just this real great family atmosphere, and then everybody just says how much they love you and love each other. It's just a really cool thing.
It's really fun to be able to do a show that like we do, and on days off on a tour. You know, we have a day off in Wichita. I take everybody to the movies. We all go to the movies, and we all go to the pizza place and everything, but everybody's invited. The truck drivers, everybody. I include everybody. I want to treat the guy that's sweeping the floor the same way I treat Nita. You know, everybody gets equal opportunity. So, I mean, if somebody has a birthday, I mean, that's a party.
Alice, you had told me this great thing when we were on the set of No Cover. I had asked you, at the time, I think Elton John had announced he was, retiring. Ozzy was slowing down. I asked you, if that was ever in your future, and you gave a very stern answer. I don't want to answer it again for you, but like, you said something to me that day that I thought was amazing, and that was, I'm never going to stop.
Well, that's not in my vocabulary to, the word retire is not, I mean, some of us in the world of rock, we're called lifers.
Yep.
That's what we do all of our life. I started when I was 15, and I'm 75 now. I mean, I don't see any reason. People say, why don't you stop and just play golf? And I go, I play golf anyways.
Yeah.
I play golf every day, but every if there's a show, I play golf that morning, and then I do the show that night. But Alice and golf never meet. If you put golf clubs on Alice's stage, he would think they were weapons.
That's amazing. Does it blow your mind when you think back sometimes, Alice, about those first dates in L.A.? I mean, there's great. Let me restate that. I've seen these great pictures of you with the original band, and you guys are like high school kids covering the Beatles. You all are super tall, doing your thing. You just like, obviously figuring out who you are as teenagers. You come to Los Angeles, you play a show in LA. Frank Zappa sees you completely clear out a venue. Can we talk about that? He signed you because you emptied a club.
Right.
So can you tell us about that?
We like everybody, like every good band, we started out playing 4 sets a night in a bar, and you would do all covers. You'd learn the Rolling Stones, Yardbirds, The Who, and every once in a while you'd throw in one of your own songs, and you could get away with that. When we went to LA, we went there as the best band in Arizona. So what we didn't realize was the best band from Montana was there, the best band from Alabama was there, the best band, and we're all vying to get into different clubs. It was really very competitive. In fact, we had to go on in auditions after Spirit almost every time.
Wow.
And, Randy California, you guys were so great. And then we would go on, and we were sort of the polar opposite of that. So anyways, we get this one gig, and it's Lenny Bruce's birthday party at the Cheetah Club. The place holds 3,000 people, and we're going to go on last because if they figured everybody would leave after the Doors, So the Doors go on, and there's still 3,000 people there, and they're all on acid. Right? And all of a sudden, everybody's peace and love. Isn't this wonderful? This is great and lovely. And then all of a sudden you hear, and uplighting, and here is this band that look like demented clowns from another planet, We cleared the room in about 2 songs. People were running for the Doors, trying to get out of the Doors because they were all on acid and we were a bad trip. Even though the band was really good, And in the end, there were like 3 people standing there, Miss Christine from the GTOs, and, and actually, what Frank wasn't there, but she came home and said, he was starting his label, Bizarre. And she says, I saw a band tonight that you have got to see. And he was looking for the freakiest bands, of course. So she said, Frank said, be at the log cabin at 7 o'clock tomorrow. And I went, really? So we show up at 7 in the morning.
Oh my God!
In full Alice. And we start playing. And all of a sudden we see this guy come down, and he's got his robe on, and he's coughing and a cigarette. And he goes, what the hell are you doing? And we said, you said 7 o'clock. And he says, tonight, 7 o'clock. And he said, but you're here. And he listened to all the songs from Pretty's For You, which was insane material. It was like every song was 3 minutes long, 2 minutes long, with 28 changes in it.
Yes.
But we played it dead on. And he went, okay, I get it. And he says, wait a minute, I don't get it. And I said, what do you mean? He says, I don't get it at all. I'm Frank Zappa, and I don't get it. And I said, well, is that good or bad? And he goes, I'm signing you because I don't get it.
That's so cool.
And I went, okay. So, Frank produced our first album, did nothing, because it really wasn't designed to do anything. But we got to play with the Mothers a lot and things like that. Got sort of a name. Next album did really nothing. When Bob Ezrin came in for Love It to Death, all of a sudden, he came in with the idea. He says, look, when you hear the Doors, you know it's the Doors because they have a signature sound. Mm-hmm. And you hear the Rolling Stones, you know it's the Rolling Stones. They have a signature. What you guys don't have is a signature sound. We worked on that for 6-7 months. And the result of that was when you heard Love It to Death album, you went, oh, that's Alice Cooper.
So, and then every album after that.
After that was, they had that,
Killer and
it had that signature to it,
Yeah.
And that was all because Bob Ezrin knew how to give Glenn a certain sound, give Neil a certain sound on drums, and Dennis already had this incredible bass sound. So, that was really how it worked. But we got the gig with Frank because he didn't get what we were doing.
That's great. Can you imagine? I wish that stuff would happen now where people get signed. They're like, you guys are strange. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to give you a record deal.
Yep.
You don't really hear that anymore,
No.
Alice.
No.
That doesn't really happen.
Because I feel like there's not too many bands that we could say are doing something completely different and out of the realm of other bands. You know what I mean? I feel like we're almost at that place, maybe falling in reverse. They're doing something a little bit different compared to everyone else, but everyone's like, well, we want airplay. We want to get on the radio, so we're going to make a song that's not as heavy. And they kind of gear away from what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, do you remember the band? The band from No Covers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The band from Michigan that won.
Native
Yep.
Hal.
Yeah.
That I was sitting there, and the guy comes on with a banjo, and I went, oh boy. And then another guy, and then the lead singer comes up, and he looks like, Aquaman, and and I'm going, oh, this is going to be really stupid. And they blew me off my chair.
Mm-hmm.
They were heavy metal bluegrass, and I went, I have never seen anything like that.
Yep.
And that's what made me just go, who are these guys? And they ended up, of course, winning. And I liked the other band too.
Night
That other band-
Spins.
Yes, they were great. That
Yeah.
guy, that lead singer had me. all
And
the
that's
way.
exactly what that show is for, right? Like finding people who go outside of their comfort zone and just do what they want to do and they're not listening to anyone
Exactly.
else.
I had seen versions of everybody else. That
Mm-hmm.
I could look at that band and say, yeah, okay, get it. I get it. They're good. I get it. And that one band would come up and I went, okay.
Yep.
That's amazing. That is, and every song they did pinned me by my chair, and I just went, you guys are amazing. And I
Didn't
never
we have
would
the
have.
best time watching them?
Oh.
We got so excited every single time that they would come into the room. We were just
Every
like,
time.
oh my God, Native Owl, here they are. Like we're just so excited to
And it
finally
was
get
so
to see them
unique.
perform.
If you remember, when they got done, everybody stood up.
Yep.
All the judges stood up because it was like stunning. It was absolutely stunning. And I just went, I still believe that band's going to be a huge band.
They got to perform at Louder Than Life when you were playing at Louder Than Life, Alice.
I'll tell you what.
But you got into town a little bit late, and I remember you were showing up late because you were like, oh, I got to get right on stage. So
And the fact they were a Michigan band, of course, I was all for that. Being
Yep.
a Detroit guy,
yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, but I had a question for you. I've always wanted to ask. Obviously, you've had a career scaring people to death, but I was always curious of like sort of what scares Alice Cooper.
I think claustrophobia is something that would really terrify me, and needles.
I'm scared of needles too.
I can put my head in a guillotine. I can put a giant snake around my neck, but a blood test?
It's
I'm-
so funny you say this. I'm petrified. I hate to admit it. I'm 32 years old, but I still cry every time I have to get a blood test because the fact of a needle going into my body.
You're right.
Oh,
The good news is you could never be a junkie.
it's true. It's true. And people always say, "Oh, you have all these tattoos," and I said, "It's not even the same at all. They graze the surface. They're not going into you."
Yeah, and then when they started going, okay, we got vaccines now for COVID, and I went, oh, good, yay!
Yeah.
And I never felt one of the shots. I never
Yep.
felt one of them, which was great.
We have a vaccine for you in a very small room if you would like it.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're claustrophobic. Well, obviously, Alice, we love you to death, and we're so happy that you joined us here. And we cannot wait to see you this summer on tour with Rob Zombie, Ministry, Filter. That's going to be, I think, one of the shows of the summer. We can't wait to see you out there. We're going to see you. Welcome to Rockville in a couple months as well. We're going to come hang out with you and bother you and check out the guillotine. And we can't thank you enough. And we love you to death, brother.
Absolutely, that's going to be fun. So I'll see you guys backstage.